I think that Michael Saylor and strategy MSTR are going to shock the entire world when it comes to how fast they can acquire Bitcoin. Right now, the reason why people are valuing all these other treasury companies at such high MNAVs, multiples to the NAV, right? That's how these things are working. They're saying that, okay, they have $1 billion worth of Bitcoin, but because of the speed at which they're acquiring that Bitcoin, they are deserving a 3x MNAV, which, by the way, this is a metric, they call it days to cover. And the person that made this famous is Adam Back. And even though I think it's a terrible metric to judge this with, because Adam Back said it, who's mentioned in the Bitcoin white paper, there is never going to be a moment where I'm going to say that him saying this is stupid, because this is fucking Adam Back, right? So I disagree with it. I don't think that's why these companies are getting their MNAVs. I think they're getting that MNAV because of the trapped capital, and I think the trapped capital is valuing these things like a commercial real estate deal, not because of its days to cover. I don't think the market is smart enough, all of that trapped capital is smart enough to value these companies based on how fast they can acquire Bitcoin, because they understand how great of an asset Bitcoin is. I do not think that's how capital's working right now. But so that's the thing that, you know, the Bitcoin community is valuing it at. I just think, I look at it and I go, right, you look at the Japanese market. The Japanese market has been, you know, barely managing to get 11% a year. And I think that as long as they can get a baseline return of above 11% a year, that's what they're going to bid the price up to, and that's what the valuation is going to be. So that's the way that I think it's being valued, not because of days to cover, because the market is smart enough to go, okay, which one deserves the most amount of premium. I don't think that's what's going on. But I do think that people are going to be shocked with how Michael Saylor's strategy and the whole team at MSTR is going to start acquiring Bitcoin based on these preferred income products. So how a bond product works is it's based and valued, the value of it is based on the yield that it provides. And so these fixed income products are going to roll through, and they've said, okay, we're going to pay you an 8% premium. And they've been really smart by saying 8, 9, whatever percent premiums, because really what they're doing here is giving the market the opportunity to come around and say, okay, I like this product and I'm going to bid it, right? And when the market, say they've got a par value of 100 and they're going to be paying $8 a share, well, now the market is saying, I'll take $4 a share if I can. I'm happy with 4%, right? Because especially when the interest rates are coming down, I'm happy with 4%. So the market is going to take that and bid it up to 200, and now completely be happy with $8 on 200, right? And then, of course, what strategy is going to do, and they've already said it, is we're going to ATM, we're going to sell those STRD, STRF, STRK, and now STRC, which is coming up for completion of the IPO on, I believe it's Wednesday. So we're going to see how that pans out. But it looks like it's been upsized from 500 million to 2.5 billion, right? That's huge. That's unbelievable. But the game is going to be this. They're going to say, the market's going to say, I'm happy with 4% yields. I don't need 8%. And by the way, the more the rates come down, the more attractive it is, right, to go for a less yield, right? If you were happy with 4% now, you're going to be really happy with 4% when you can borrow money at 1 or 2%, right? And so, you know, the faster the rate comes down, the more aggressive this is. They'll take it to $200, and everyone will say, okay, I'm happy with 4%, but that's all I'm happy with, right? I'm not really happy with more. So now strategy will go in and ATM the shit out of that product. And they'll sell STRD shares into the market to bring the price of STRD closer back to 100, and let's say they get to 150. So now you get a 6%, 6.5% yield. And now the market will say, oh, that's pretty damn attractive. I was happy with 4. I'm going to bid it up again, right? So now they'll take the price and they'll bid it back up to 200. Now, Saylor and MSTR and Strategy has the ability to sell more ATM into the market to bring the bid back down to 6.5%. And really what you're going to get is this oscillation between somewhere between, let's say, 8% and 4%. And the more you can bring the rates down, so if the market is now happy with a 2% yield, you can now take this, to $400 a share. And now Strategy and Saylor have the ability to ATM between 100 and 400, right? They can just do this and extract more and more Bitcoin out of the market like that. Bear in mind, this market that we're opening up into, this debt has not been graded yet. They're not even in the S&P 500. The debt has not been graded. As these things happen, the debt becomes more eligible for wider and wider portfolios, right? If the debt gets graded, now instantly, $50 trillion, something like that, basically can now put into the market. And the size of this preferred product bond market is in the region of $300 trillion. So you're going to see, everyone's super impressed with Metaplanet, with SWC, with all these companies using this days to cover metric. And since we're sticking with going down the path of this days to cover delusion, let's just roll down that, right? What happens when Strategy can, acquire 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 Bitcoin a week with only, or rather without ATMing the actual stock on the common stock? What if they can just ATM the preferred products, right? And then let's say for whatever reason the stock starts to get attacked, and now the stock is valued at less, for example, less than whatever they determine is the fair value compared to its Bitcoin holdings. Well, now I can ATM. Saylor's already said this is not me speculating. Saylor's already said that he can ATM the preferred products and buy the common stock, right? Which would then increase the value of that common stock based on the amount of Bitcoin that they hold. So he can now has full control once these products start getting into, get rolling. We haven't started rolling yet, right? Once these products get rolling, he's got full control over estimating the value of MSTR according to its Bitcoin holdings because of this preferred market. And the preferred market's completely happy. Everyone was worried, how are they going to pay this 8% debt? Well, he's just going to ATM it, right? He's going to ATM it away because he's, got a 40%, 29 to 40% CAGR on the Bitcoin, and he's only paying you 8%. So he can just buy the Bitcoin, accrete the Bitcoin, and sell down the ATM to pay for whatever that interest rate is. And remember, the majority of this capital will not be paid 8%, right? The majority of that capital is going to be paid somewhere in the region of 3 to 6%, if that, right? Depending on what happens in the interest rates and how interesting these products get. The lower the interest rates become, the lower the market is happy to take, the more oscillation room he has to do the ATM. Right now, I think he can go from 200 to 150, right? Soon enough, if the market starts willing to accept, 2%, 3%, something like that, he can now go from 300 to 150, 400 to 150, and start oscillating that like that. So the ATM on the common stock over the next few years is really going to disappear because the preferred markets are the fixed income markets are much more larger than the ATM on the common stock, and you won't need to do the ATM on the common stock in order to extract this Bitcoin from the market. It will all be coming from the fixed income markets, and that's the plan here. That's what he's been saying. That's the strategy here, and all of these other. And by the way, I personally think, I don't know how this functions. I'd have to speak to lawyers and financiers, but I personally think that at some point it'll be really much easier for him to list and do ATM on the fixed income products in other markets rather than even using the common stock. I don't think he needs to go and register MSTR on the Japanese markets if he can list STRD on these foreign markets, right? And if these foreign markets are basing this like a commercial real estate deal and not on days to cover like everyone's talking about, then really it becomes a no-brainer deal. I get an American company that's accreting Bitcoin instantly and I get 6% when my market is growing at, let's say negative percentages. It's a no-brainer deal, and I think those products are going to catch fire in those markets. So that's what I think is happening here. And that's what when you start seeing days to cover start shrinking for a company that has a stack of 600,000 Bitcoin, everyone's going to get ready to shit themselves because he's going to start buying up Bitcoin faster than some of these other companies that currently people are giving, 4, 5, 6, 7x MNAVs to. And then you're going to start seeing the value of MSTR as a growth stock come into fruition. All of this is unfolding. And that's what I think is going to happen because as Saylor has stated himself, that the goal is to acquire as much Bitcoin as fast as humanly possible, and all of this premium value has not been built into MSTR yet. We haven't even seen an earnings yet where the earnings are positive, right? That's coming up July 31st, so make sure you keep an eye on that. There's a lot of exciting things happening, and of course STRC, which I do want to do a video on, so make sure you subscribe to the channel for that, is all coming into fruition over the next months, years. This is a slow market. Everything's going to take time. But ultimately, there are always only 3 rules to Bitcoin. Step number 1, you buy Bitcoin. Step number 2, shut the fuck up. And step number 3, you get fabulously wealthy.